Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe to my channel. In this message, I want to talk about disappointment. I already made a video several months back in which I explained that disappointment is a way of thinking that you need to be delivered from. I want to elaborate on that. What it comes down to with disappointment is that there was an expectation in which there was an investment and the outcome doesn't match the investment that was put in the expectation. Because you can have many expectations, but it's only the expectations that you invest in that will disappoint you if the outcome doesn't match. And here's the thing. Anytime you have an expectation, it means that there is an outcome that you agree with. For example, if you are, let's say, you meet someone that's younger than you, and you are in the Netherlands, and someone addresses you with jij. Jij is Dutch for you. But he does not address you with u. U also means you in Dutch, but u is used for people that you don't know or people that are older than you. This is a cultural convention. There is no natural fact that prescribes that you need to use two different forms of you to people. This is just something that the Dutch ancestors, the ancestors of the Dutch people made up, and the convention has been passed down through the generations, and people have agreed with it. So you agree with someone using a different form of address towards you if they are more distant towards you. You feel safe with that. That is the outcome you agree with. And because you agree with this outcome, you now have the expectation that people give in to this convention. So you invest in this. How do you invest in it? You hold on to it and you avoid people that don't agree with it. So you invest in this expectation. Now you feel safe with this expectation. But what happens when the expectation doesn't work out? You don't confront it with reality. You don't confront it with the fact that your expectation may not add up. You're not confronted with that your expectation may not always work. And here's the thing, you've invested in it. And because you've invested in it, now you need to face that you invested in, how do I say, you actually bet on the wrong horse. And that horse has lost. So now your money is gone. And you're never going to get that money back. You're never going to get back that time and all that energy and all that effort. And this is what is so painful of disappointment, is you recognize that there's a loss because you invested in something and now you need to deal with the loss. And you're not willing to deal with it. And you don't want to be confronted with it. Now, when disappointment happens, it's a learning moment. It's a learning moment for you to evaluate your thinking. And when you evaluate your thinking, you will find unexamined thinking patterns, unexamined expectations that will come up to the light, and now you can examine those expectations, and sooner or later you find out that those expectations have been conditioned onto you, or those are expectations you developed as reaction to the conditioning of your environment. And now that you look at the bigger picture, you gain more insight, and now you are free from the spell of holding on to stuff that aren't examined. Because when you were disappointed and you felt that anger, you thought was automatic, as if you couldn't help it. Now, indeed, you couldn't help it then, but now that you are examining yourself, now that you look at the bigger picture, now you see through the spell. And this is why renewing your mind is so important. Because disappointment is a way of thinking, and this way of thinking works itself out in feelings and emotions of pain, resentment, sadness, rage. And when those emotions manifest, we often go after emotions. We look for therapy, or we go to the gym, or we go to the club, or whatever. But we don't deal with what underlies those emotions and those feelings, which is a way of thinking that doesn't add up. And look, when you have so much of that waste energy that's been generated by this wrong way of thinking, just dealing with the root is not going to eliminate all that happiness. Now you need to be freed from all that happiness. So being delivered from disappointment is something very important. And here's one more thing I want to point out to you. A lot of people that have become bitter towards you are only bitter because they are disappointed. They are not that much disappointed in you because it's not something that you did to cause them to be disappointed. They're disappointed because you didn't give in to one of their expectations. But those expectations don't add up to begin with. And those expectations have nothing to do with you. So they cannot be angry with you and especially become bitter at you. But because they're so invested in those expectations, they are defending those expectations. They are defending themselves. And now they need someone to defend themselves against. And in this case, it's you. That's why they're bitter against you. But here's the thing. That bitterness, they're the ones with it, not you. Now, what's your responsibility to such people? You walk in love towards them, you pray for them, but you keep your safe distance. Because remember, they're holding on to danger. And you should not be involved with danger. Even if you did something that was wrong, they need to look for safety. They shouldn't hold on to danger. Look, a lot of folks, when it comes to disappointments, they hide it. They don't want to face it. Because to face it means they need to face themselves. They need to face other people also. It can be that the thinking patterns you have are conditioned onto you by your relatives. So if you have to face yourself, it also means you need to face your relatives. And now you need to see people for who they really are. And to see people for who they really are means that you cannot relate to them anymore as you used to. Because maybe those relatives of yours aren't at the right mind, but because you were in denial, you could be in a so-called loving company with them. But now you can't get that emotional gratification, that emotional relief anymore. Now you see who they really are. So to face disappointment means that you need to face yourself and you need to face your relationships. And this is something a lot of folks don't want to do. And I want to point out something more to you. Some people that don't want to face disappointment, they will turn on anyone that's convenient. Because when you turn on someone, your attention goes to the other individual, in the sense that you are against the individual, you can't stand the individual. And when this happens, you're distracted from having to face the disappointment. There are people turning on you because they don't want to face internal things. I want to warn you, do not think that just because someone has a job and a high position, a good salary according to the world, an apartment or a house that's beautifully decorated, don't think that just because one has all those gadgets that he can't suffer from disappointment. I'm telling you, often successful people suffer from disappointment. The number one disappointment a lot of successful people are suffering from is the expectation that once they have success, their problems are gone. I'm telling you, that's a lie. Successful people, once they get that prosperity, they don't realize that the prosperity isn't canceling out problems. They realize now that their prosperity itself provokes problems. That means negative reactions from other people. So that's one disappointment they have to deal with. So now they have the prosperity, they have the success, but they're still facing issues. And they thought, if I'm successful, if I'm making it, it's all going to be over. It's going to be all at ease. No, it's not true. The second disappointment successful people often face is that some people do not want to acknowledge their prosperity. It can be that someone has a music gallery online. He or she, let's say it's an artist. The artist produces good quality music. And the artist has hundreds of people liking the page and commenting positively on the music. But there are some people that the artist expected to praise him. It can be a relative or a parent or a significant other, but that individual does not want to recognize his or her prosperity. And this disappointment will hinder the artist from enjoying and benefiting from the hundreds of people that are praising his work. So there can be hundreds of people praising that artist, but because a few individuals that artist considers important don't acknowledge his importance, he is completely depressed. There are successful people going through this. So don't think that just because someone has prosperity or someone has things working for him or her that they don't face any issues. They do. And people that face disappointment and they don't know how to deal with it, they, not all of them, but they tend to block people from their lives that may see through their deception. Because often when people are in disappointment, they put on a mask to prevent people from seeing through them, to prevent people from seeing what's going on. But if you're an individual that sees through stuff, then expect such people to turn on you and to cause you out of their lives. They will do this to prevent you from asking difficult questions that might trigger them to remember that they're not that happy. I'm telling you, a lot of successful people, I did not say all, but a lot of successful people, they face deep disappointments. But they will seldom talk about it because you're not expected to talk about disappointments as a successful individual, right? But anyway, just realize that people are dealing with stuff you often are not aware of. So be merciful unto people in a Christ-centered manner, agree with Christ, and be at peace.